As the US suffers its worst daily death toll from coronavirus, America's health watchdogs say people should wear face masks when they go out, but the president doesn't seem to agree.
So with the masks, it's going to be really a voluntary thing. You can do it, you don't have to do it. I'm choosing not to do it, but some people may want to do it, and that's okay.
The head of the IMF says the pandemic has caused an economic crisis like no other, with the world's economy at a standstill. Battling the virus in Asia's biggest slum, where social distancing is virtually impossible. Police in Paris step up spot checks to prevent people heading out of town for the traditional Easter break and taking the virus with them. The World Health Organization says the pandemic is developing into more than a health crisis and has called for all lockdown restrictions to be kept in place to attack the spread of the virus. The UK's Health Secretary has urged people to stay at home over fears that sunny weather could tempt people to go outside. The UK's largest hospital facility, built in 9 days, is to take patients needing intensive care in the next week. New York has suffered its worst day yet, with 500 victims, bringing its total to nearly 3,000 deaths. In Europe, Spain has overtaken Italy with the most cases. The total number of confirmed fatalities has now reached almost 11,000. The head of the International Monetary Fund says the crisis is humanity's darkest hour, adding, "We've witnessed the world economy coming to a standstill." The head of the International Monetary Fund has warned that the impact of the pandemic is way worse than the global financial crisis. Kristalina Georgieva said the world was in recession and the only way of resolving the situation was for countries to work together. Freya Cole reports.
Demand for dairy in supermarkets may be high, but farmers in the United States have been left with no option but to throw out fresh milk due to mass interruptions in the supply chain. There are not enough people to package and transport the goods. It's just one example of the huge economic fallout caused by this pandemic.
This is a crisis like no other. Never in the history of the IMF we have witnessed the world economy coming to a standstill. We are now in recession. It is way worse than the global financial crisis.
Covent Garden is almost unrecognisable. No shops are open and no one is there spending money. That's because roughly 4 billion people around the world are under some kind of stay-at-home order. According to the International Monetary Fund, more than 90 countries have applied for financial assistance. The organisation has the capacity to lend $1 trillion, which it hopes will be funnelled back into healthcare systems to put an end to this crisis as soon as possible.
Let's begin today in China, where people are observing a 3-minute silence all over the country to mourn patients and medical staff killed by the coronavirus. The pictures you're seeing here are from Wuhan, the city where the virus obviously originated. It's a train station just in Wuhan. Let's take a little listen to this 3 minutes of silence. So what you can hear there are the horns of cars, buses, trains and ships. They're on the hour. The government have organised this to remember the more than 3,000 people who've officially been recorded to have died of the virus. The government says the event is also a chance to honour 14 workers who died trying to contain the virus in Wuhan. And this is another location in China with a minute's silence, Beijing this, and officials honouring those who died. That's horns there in the distance of ships honouring the more than 3,000 people who died in China of the coronavirus. Some of the passengers from the Zaandam and Rotterdam cruise ships are finally heading home after being stuck on board for weeks with nowhere to disembark. 4 people have died, several others tested positive for Covid-19 and more than 200 showed flu-like symptoms. There are also questions about what happens to the crews and staff stranded on board the ships. Rajed Ahmed reports.
It's the culmination of a difficult and harrowing few weeks for the passengers of the Zaandam and its sister ship, the Rotterdam. Some holiday makers are finally going home, with healthy passengers taken from buses onto chartered flights heading back to their home countries.
Going to the airport.